Why is he carrying badge 001? Marcus Doyle snapped, gripping Ethan Brooks by the wrist as the Halecore lobby froze around them. Ethan stood in his gray janitor's uniform, one hand held by security, the other still offering the silver keycard back. Victoria Hale stepped from the executive elevator and stopped cold when the screen flashed badge 001. Behind Ethan, 9-year-old Lily clutched her backpack, the corner of an old badge peeking out. "Daddy found it," she whispered. 3 hours earlier, the lobby still smelled of rainwater, floor wax, and burnt coffee. Ethan Brooks pushed a yellow mop bucket across the marble, following the thin trail of muddy footprints left by employees rushing in from the storm. He moved quietly, the way a man learns to move when the world has made it clear it does not need to notice him. His gray uniform was clean but faded at the knees. A ring of service keys tapped softly against his hip. In his lunch bag, wrapped beside a dented thermos, was half a turkey sandwich he had saved in case Lily got hungry after school. Above him, the glass walls of Halecore Technologies caught the morning light and threw it back in hard white angles. Screens near the reception desk showed smiling slogans about trust, safety, and innovation. But there was a wrong sound under all of it, a small electronic chirp coming from the far end of the lobby near the service elevators. Ethan paused. He had learned long ago that buildings spoke before they failed. A vent clicked too fast. A relay hummed too low. A card reader blinked in a pattern no employee bothered to see. He looked toward the side corridor and noticed something lying half under the brushed steel base of the turnstile. Keycard. Silver. Executive grade. Not the plastic kind contractors used. Rainwater had beaded along its edge, and one corner was scratched as if it had been dropped hard. Ethan bent, picked it up with 2 fingers, and wiped it carefully with the corner of his cleaning cloth. He did not scan it. He did not slip it into his pocket. He did not even turn it over at first. He only looked around for the person who might have lost it because lost things had a way of becoming accusations when they were found in poor hands. At the reception desk, the morning crowd thickened. Employees tapped badges, balanced lattes, complained about delays. Ethan waited until the receptionist looked up, then placed the card flat on the counter. "Someone dropped this by the service elevators," he said. "You may want to log it before the rush." The receptionist reached for it, but before her fingers touched the metal, every gate in the lobby flashed red. A low alarm rolled through the building, not loud enough to panic people, just sharp enough to stop their conversations mid-sentence. Marcus Doyle came fast from security, suit jacket open, polished shoes clicking against wet marble. Behind him, Adrian Cross emerged from the executive corridor with a phone pressed to his palm and a calm face that looked almost practiced. "Nobody touches that card," Marcus ordered. Ethan stepped back. "I only brought it in." Marcus lifted the card and turned it toward the nearest scanner. The tiny screen blinked once, twice, then displayed badge 001. The air changed. A few employees laughed nervously, thinking it was a glitch. Adrian's thumb stopped moving on his phone. Marcus looked at Ethan as if the gray uniform itself had become evidence. "Where did you get this?" "By the service elevators," Ethan said. His voice stayed low. "Like I told her. Badge 001 does not belong to janitorial staff." Marcus reached for Ethan's wrist before Ethan could move, and the whole lobby turned to watch. At that moment, the school shuttle doors opened outside the glass entrance, and Lily Brooks came in with her purple backpack bouncing against her knees. She saw her father's arm in another man's hand. She stopped smiling. Victoria Hale's private elevator opened with a soft chime, and she stepped out into the red glow of the locked gates. Her eyes went first to Marcus, then to Ethan, then to the card held between them. For one breath, her CEO mask did not break. Then she saw the number, badge 001, and somewhere behind Lily's trembling fingers, tucked inside the clear pocket of her backpack, the worn edge of an old employee badge showed the same 3 digits. The worn edge of Lily's old badge stayed visible for only a second before she pressed her backpack against her chest. But Victoria Hale had already seen enough to pause. Marcus Doyle did not. "Standard security protocol," he said. his voice smooth and public, the kind of voice designed to make cruelty sound clean. "Mr. Brooks, empty your pockets on the table." "He didn't steal anything," Lily said. "Lily," Ethan murmured. "It's all right." But it was not all right. The lobby lights buzzed above them, cold and white, while every red gate stayed locked like the building itself had chosen suspicion. Ethan placed his dented lunch tin on the security table first, then his rubber gloves, his service keys, a folded cleaning cloth, and the small photo of Lily he kept behind his ID sleeve. Someone near the coffee stand whispered, "A janitor with an executive badge?" Another voice answered, "People get desperate." Ethan heard it. Lily heard it too. He moved half a step in front of her, not to hide himself, but to give her something steady to look at besides grown adults forgetting their own manners. "Eyes on my shoes, sweetheart," he said softly. "Just breathe." Marcus lifted the lunch tin with 2 fingers, as if poverty might leave a stain. No company laptop, no authorized device, no reason to possess executive credentials. Adrian Cross stood beside Victoria, calm in a charcoal suit, his expression trimmed into concern. "This is unfortunate," he said. "But during an active breach, we can't let sentiment interfere with procedure." He looked at Ethan, not unkindly, which somehow made it worse. "Badge 001 was never assigned." Victoria's eyes shifted to him. Just a fraction. Ethan did not argue. His jaw tightened once, then relaxed. "I found it by the service elevators," he said. "I brought it to reception." Marcus gave a thin smile. "And yet you didn't report it to security directly." Reception was closer. A few employees chuckled under their breath. Lily's fingers curled around the strap of her backpack until her knuckles paled. The old badge inside the clear pocket slid forward again, its faded plastic catching the lobby light. Victoria saw the scratched corner. She saw the same 3 worn digits. 001. Marcus reached toward Lily's backpack, still smiling that professional smile. "We'll need to inspect that as well." Ethan's hand came up, open, calm, stopping nothing by force but everything by presence. "No," he said. The lobby went quieter. Not silent, not yet. Just careful. Marcus blinked. "Mr. Brooks, if that bag contains company property." "That is my daughter's school bag," Ethan said. "You can ask me questions. You can check my pockets. You don't make a child part of your show." Lily looked up at him then, scared but proud, and that hurt him more than the whispers. Victoria took 1 step forward. "Leave the child's bag alone," she said. Marcus adjusted his cuff, recovering quickly. "Of course. I'm only trying to protect the company." Adrian nodded almost gently. "We all are." But Victoria's gaze had returned to the silver keycard on the table, rain still trapped along its scratched edge. Badge 001 was supposedly never assigned, yet a little girl's old keepsake carried the same number, and Adrian had denied it before anyone had checked the record. Adrian had denied badge 001 too quickly, and that tiny wrong note hung in the lobby like a loose wire behind a clean wall. Victoria did not accuse him. Marcus did not slow down. The crowd only shifted, phones half-raised, coffee cooling in paper cups. Then a sharp clatter broke the silence. Noah Reed, the young security intern, had dropped his tablet and a thin stack of breach reports near the wet marble by the reception desk. "Careful," Marcus said without looking at him. "You've done enough today." Noah flushed red and bent too fast, scattering the pages farther. Ethan looked at Lily, gave her 1 small nod, then crouched beside the young man. His wrist still showed the pale mark where Marcus had grabbed him. He picked up the tablet first, wiped the screen with the clean corner of his folded cloth, and placed it safely on the table. Then he gathered the reports in order, tapping their edges against the marble until the pages squared perfectly. "Coffee got this one," Ethan said quietly, holding up a damp sheet. "If you hand it in like that, they'll blame you for the missing line." Noah blinked. "Thanks." "No shame in dropping paper," Ethan said. "Only in letting someone else carry the blame." Marcus gave a soft laugh. "Very noble. But janitorial services don't need to audit our security reports. Ethan did not answer. He only turned the damp page slightly so Noah could see the diagram printed beneath the brown stain. The label beside one corridor read North Server Annex. Ethan's thumb paused there. Not long. Not enough for a speech. Just enough for a man recognizing a street sign in a town he once knew by heart. This room number is wrong, he said. Noah frowned. What? Ethan pointed, careful not to touch the keycard still lying on the table. That corridor doesn't feed north. Feeds down. Old buildings keep old bones. Marcus stepped in and snatched the report. Old labels don't matter. Wrong labels hurt small people first, Ethan said. His voice was mild, almost tired, and that made the sentence land harder than anger would have. Lily slid her hand into his. Her fingers were cold. He squeezed once, the way he did when the rent was late, when the school called about unpaid lunch credit, when December came and the house felt too quiet without her mother's voice. He had spent years teaching Lily that being overlooked was not the same as being worthless. Now he had to prove it without raising his voice. Victoria watched him from beside the security table. She saw the lunch tin, the gloves, the old photo, the silver keycard with rain drying along its edge. She also saw the intern stand a little straighter because the man everyone mocked had saved him from a mistake. Adrian leaned close to her and said, "He's guessing. Maintenance workers notice floor plans." But his eyes stayed on the report in Marcus's hand. Ethan finally reached for the keycard. Not to claim it, not to hide it, only to move it away from the puddle spreading from someone's overturned coffee. He dried its scratched edge with the same cloth he had used on Noah's tablet and set it flat under the lobby light. For a second, the engraved number caught white against silver. 001. Noah looked from the card to the damp diagram, then to the service hallway Ethan had mentioned, and his expression changed. The janitor had not just been kind. He had quietly pointed to the first place the truth had been mislabeled. Noah's expression changed just enough for Marcus to notice, and that was when the room tightened again. "Step away from the report," Marcus said, placing himself between Ethan and the security table. "Mr. Brooks has already handled one piece of restricted material. We don't need him handling another." Ethan lifted both hands slightly, palms open. "I'm not touching anything. You corrected a security diagram. I corrected a room label. During an active breach," Adrian said, his voice soft enough to sound reasonable. He turned to Victoria. "That matters. A man with unauthorized knowledge, found with an unauthorized credential, standing beside a mislabeled internal map. We can't ignore the pattern." Victoria did not answer immediately. The lobby's red gate lights pulsed across her face. Bright then dim, bright then dim. She looked at Ethan's worn shoes, the damp cleaning cloth, the keycard lying under the hard white lobby light. Suspicion was not cruelty when a company was under attack. But suspicion became dangerous when the wrong person controlled the story. "Run it offline," she said at last. Marcus looked at her. Victoria, with respect. "Offline," she repeated. "No network connection. No write access. Read-only scan." Adrian's jaw shifted almost invisibly. "That may corrupt whatever the attacker embedded." Ethan lowered his eyes, but his voice carried. "If it's fake, why are you afraid to read it?" The sentence did not sound like a challenge. It sounded like a door closing. Marcus stared at him for half a second too long, then forced a polite smile. "Because professionals understand risk." He snapped his fingers toward Noah. "Bring the isolation reader." Noah hurried behind the reception wall and returned with a black metal scanner stored in a foam-lined case. His hands trembled when he set it on the table. Lily leaned closer to Ethan's side. "Daddy," she whispered. "That card was already wet when you picked it up." Ethan glanced down at her. "I know." It was a child's observation, simple and harmless, but Victoria heard it. The silver keycard still held a thin crescent of rainwater along the scratch near its corner, while the service elevator floor behind Ethan had been dry for nearly an hour. Marcus slid the card toward the reader before anyone could look too closely. "Let's put this to rest." The scanner gave one low beep. Then another. The little screen did not flash red. It did not say invalid. It did not say stolen. Instead, pale blue letters appeared one line at a time. Legacy credential detected. Profile archived. Not deleted. The lobby went still in a different way now. Not shock. Calculation. Adrian gave a small laugh, just enough to release pressure. Hacker residue. They're spoofing old credential language to confuse internal response. Noah frowned at the side monitor. This reader isn't connected to the network. Marcus's eyes cut to him. That's enough. But the log timestamp is local, Noah said, quieter now. It generated from the card structure itself. Victoria's gaze sharpened. Adrian took one step forward, his shoulder blocking the camera dome above the reception desk for a breath. Victoria, we should destroy the credential and preserve a written summary. Chain of custody is cleaner that way. Ethan looked up then, not at Adrian's face, but at the way his body covered the camera's view of the table. Then he looked at the old badge peeking from Lily's backpack. The same tired plastic, the same broken corner, the same impossible number. He did not know what had survived inside the system, but he knew what fear looked like when it dressed itself as procedure. On the scanner, beneath the archived profile notice, a final line appeared and waited for someone brave enough to read it aloud. Root index sealed. Root index sealed remained on the scanner like a locked door no one in the lobby wanted to admit existed. Marcus reached for the device, but Victoria's hand came down on the table first, flat and quiet. No one clears that screen. The sound of her ring against the metal edge was small, but it stopped 3 conversations at once. Adrian smiled carefully. Victoria, this is exactly how attackers bait leadership into chasing ghosts. Then a new alarm pulsed from the wall panel near the employee daycare corridor, softer than the breach siren but more human somehow, because people knew what was behind that door. A mother near the turnstiles turned pale. My son is in there. The screen above the corridor flashed access locked. Fallback error. Marcus lifted his radio. Facilities can handle it. Ethan's eyes moved toward the panel before anyone asked him to. He heard it then. A relay clicking too fast behind the brushed steel access box. 3 short ticks, a pause, then 3 again. Not broken. Looping. Lily felt his hand tense around hers. Daddy, stay with the desk, he said softly. Marcus heard him and stepped closer. You do not give instructions here. Ethan did not move toward the door. He did not touch the panel. He only looked at Noah, who still stood beside the isolation reader with fear written across his face. Call maintenance, Ethan said. Ask for the 3rd fallback relay to be opened, not reset. Noah blinked. The what? Adrian laughed under his breath. That's not a current procedure. It shouldn't be current, Ethan said. It's a safety bypass. If they reset the whole floor, that door stays locked until the cycle finishes. Marcus's voice sharpened behind its polish. Mr. Brooks, you're speculating in front of frightened employees. Ethan looked at the mother by the turnstiles, then back at Noah. Don't reset what's protecting the children. That was all he said. No speech, no claim, no old title pulled from a grave. Just a sentence laid down with enough calm that Noah reached for his radio. Victoria watched the young intern hesitate, watched Marcus glare at him, watched Adrian's face harden for a fraction before smoothing again. Do it, Victoria said. Read only on the badge. Maintenance on the relay. No resets. Noah repeated the instruction into the radio. Somewhere behind the wall, a panel opened with a metallic pop. A maintenance worker's voice crackled back, confused and breathless. There is a 3rd relay. It's unlabeled. Ethan closed his eyes for half a second, listening. Top left, he said quietly. Manual release. Don't cut power. Noah relayed it. The lobby seemed to hold its breath. The air conditioning hummed louder. A chair leg stopped scraping near the coffee stand. Lily pressed both hands around the straps of her backpack and watched the daycare light above the corridor flicker from red to amber, then from amber to green. The door clicked open. A teacher stepped out first, holding the hands of 2 children, followed by 3 more small faces blinking into the bright lobby. The pale mother covered her mouth and began to cry without making a sound. Ethan turned away before anyone could thank him. He picked up Lily's lunch bag from the floor where it had slipped during the alarm and brushed a smear of dust from the zipper. Victoria did not applaud. She did something more important. She leaned toward Noah and said under her breath, "Find the service log for third fallback relay. Original build, not current manual." Adrian heard enough to answer too quickly. "Those archives were migrated years ago. They're unreliable." Noah's tablet chimed. His thumb hovered over the screen. "I found one," he said. "Local copy. Old format." Marcus stepped toward him. "Send it to me." "No," Victoria said. "Put it on the table." Noah placed the tablet beside the silver keycard. On the screen, under a faded Hailcore predecessor logo, was a service note, "Third fallback relay, designed for child-safe evacuation." The author field was hidden behind a sealed root index, but the protocol name glowed clear enough for everyone to read. And for the first time, Adrian Cross stopped smiling before he remembered he was supposed to. Third fallback relay, designed for child-safe evacuation, sat on Noah's tablet like a sentence from another life. Victoria read it once, then again, her hand resting beside the silver keycard but not touching it. "Original build," she said. Noah swallowed. "Before Hailcore was Hailcore. The archive logo is from North Star Systems." Adrian's voice stayed even. "Old migration data. Useful context, not evidence." Ethan looked at the tablet, then at the daycare door where the children had just been led into the lobby. His face did not change, but Lily felt his fingers loosen around hers, as if something old inside him had gone very tired. "Don't use that hallway again until maintenance labels the relay," he said to Noah. "Please." Marcus gave a short, polished sigh. "Mr. Brooks, we are not taking facilities advice from a suspect." Victoria turned to him. "We are taking safety advice from the man who opened the door without touching the system." The words did not clear Ethan. They only changed the air around him. Noah tapped through the archive copy with careful fingers. The lobby screens glowed red behind them, and every reflection in the glass looked doubled, like the building itself was watching 2 histories at once. Then the old service note expanded into a maintenance bundle. A thumbnail loaded slowly, pixel by pixel. It was a photograph. A younger Ethan Brooks stood in a narrow server room, hair darker, eyes just as quiet, wearing a clipped badge marked 001. Beside him were 3 engineers and a temporary paper sign taped to a rack. Founding Security Architecture Review. No one laughed this time. Lily leaned forward. "Daddy, that's you." Ethan closed his eyes briefly. "It was a long time ago." Adrian stepped in with the speed of a man trying not to run. "Plenty of contractors took photos during the early build. That doesn't make them architects." Noah scrolled lower. The personnel field for Ethan Brooks opened, then flickered into a current record. Temporary facilities contractor. The old photograph and the current label sat together on the tablet, cruel in their simplicity. Victoria's expression hardened. Who changed his classification? Marcus adjusted his tie. Records were migrated during restructuring. A lot of legacy profiles were normalized. Normalized? Ethan repeated softly, as if the word tasted familiar and bitter. He could have said more. He could have pointed at Adrian. He could have let anger do what anger always promised to do. Instead he looked toward Noah, whose badge still said intern, whose hands were shaking over evidence powerful people already wanted buried. "Don't let him take the tablet alone," Ethan said. "Chain of custody matters more when the truth is small." Victoria heard that. So did Adrian. His phone buzzed once in his hand. He glanced down and turned the screen. Inward too quickly. Noah found the edit history next. Not all of it. Only a header, locked behind root access. But the visible timestamp was enough to make Victoria go still. Ethan's classification had been changed the same week his wife entered hospice care. A linked upload showed a scanned garage invoice. 2008 Ford F-150. Sold below value. Emergency payment noted. Lily did not understand all the words, Only the way her father's shoulders became very still. "That was Mom's truck?" she whispered. Ethan nodded once. "It helped us keep a promise." The old lobby printer behind reception stopped mid-cycle, leaving the room in a strange quiet. Marcus reached for the tablet. Victoria moved it away. Adrian's tone finally thinned at the edges. "This should be handled upstairs, privately, before people misunderstand." Victoria looked across the sand where Ethan had been searched, where his lunch tin still sat open beside his cleaning gloves, where his daughter had been told by 100 silent faces that her father was less than them. "No," she said. "If the accusation was public, the record will be read publicly too." Victoria did not move the confrontation upstairs. She moved it back to the sandkin where Ethan's lunch tin still sat open under the white lobby lights, where the red security gates had turned every face into a witness. Legal counsel arrived first, then 2 board members, then the head of internal audit with a sealed evidence cart. Employees gathered at a careful distance, no longer laughing, no longer whispering loudly, just watching the space where a janitor had been treated like a thief. Ethan stood beside Lily, one hand resting lightly on her shoulder, his gray uniform still damp at the cuff from the morning rain. He did not look like a man about to win. He looked like a father trying to keep his child steady while the truth crossed a dangerous room. Adrian Cross stepped forward before Victoria could speak. "Let me simplify this," he said, voice calm, almost generous. "We have an old badge, a corrupted archive, and a former contractor who may have known enough about legacy infrastructure to exploit a breach. That does not make him a founder. It makes him a risk." The first retention spike landed hard. A few people shifted again. Doubt once planted always knew how to grow. Marcus nodded with professional sadness. "No one wants to embarrass Mr. Brooks, but security cannot be emotional." Ethan looked down at the silver keycard on the evidence cloth, then at the faded badge Lily held against her backpack strap. "Then don't be emotional," he said. "Be accurate." Victoria's eyes stayed on Adrian, not Ethan. She was waiting to see what pressure would do to a man who had always controlled the room. Noah placed the first item on the table, the keycard marked badge 001. Then he placed the second, Lily's worn old badge, sealed now in a clear evidence sleeve, the same 3 digits visible under a scratched plastic corner. Lily did not step forward. She only whispered from behind her father, "It was in Dad's memory box." That was all a child needed to say. Noah brought up the third item on the lobby screen, the archive service log for the third fallback relay, the one that had opened the daycare door. Adrian clasped his hands behind his back. Again, legacy data. Old systems are full of orphan notes. Victoria nodded once, as if accepting the possibility. "Then explain this note." Noah enlarged a line from the original source file. "Lily protocol, protect the smallest user first." Adrian smiled faintly, recovering. "A sentimental label. Engineers use names all the time. Proves nothing." For 1 second, it seemed he had regained the room. Then Ethan lifted his eyes. "Lily wasn't my daughter's name then." The lobby changed temperature. Even the air conditioning seemed to quiet. Ethan's voice stayed low. "It was my wife's." Victoria turned slowly toward Adrian. "Did you know that?" Adrian's mouth opened, but no answer came cleanly. Marcus looked at the camera dome, then away. Noah's fingers moved over the tablet, pulling up the old personnel image beside the source file. Then the timestamp showing Ethan's classification changed during the same week his wife entered hospice. Ethan did not accuse anyone. He only said, "I'm not here to punish a man. I'm here because lies become policy if everyone keeps walking around them." Victoria breathed in once, placed the keycard into the black legacy reader, and told Noah to open the root author file in read-only mode for everyone to see. The black legacy reader accepted badge 001 with a soft click, and the lobby screen went white. No music, no warning banner, just one line appearing slowly beneath the Hailcore predecessor logo. Root author verified, Ethan Brooks, badge 001. For a moment, no one moved. The coffee machines hissed behind the reception wall. A phone vibrated unanswered on the security table. Adrian Cross stared at the screen as if the letters had chosen violence without raising their voice. Then the second file opened. Edit history. Admin override. Noah's hand hovered over the tablet, waiting for Victoria's nod. She gave it. The screen scrolled line by line, each timestamp colder than the last. Marcus Doyle had removed Ethan's root access. Adrian Cross had approved the transfer of authorship. Later entries showed the same architecture repackaged under Adrian's name, attached to board reports, investor decks, and contracts that built his reputation floor by floor. No one shouted. No one needed to. A pen slipped from Marcus's hand and struck the marble with a tiny, humiliating crack. Adrian inhaled, but the air seemed to fail him. "That's incomplete context," he said, but his voice had dried out. Victoria did not look away from the screen. "Read-only logs don't create motive," she said, "but they do preserve sequence." Noah pulled up the third item. Lily Protocol. Protect the smallest user first. Below it, the root author signature matched badge 001. The daycare service note matched the same architecture branch. The old photo matched the same badge. The timestamp matched the week Ethan's wife entered hospice. The garage invoice matched the week he sold the truck and disappeared from the company record. Piece by piece, the story stopped being a rumor and became a chain no polished title could break. Lily stepped closer to Ethan, holding the old badge in both hands. She did not understand board fraud, authorship transfer, or sealed root indexes, but she understood that the room had stopped looking at her father like he was small. Ethan knelt just enough for her to place the faded badge beside the silver keycard on the evidence cloth. Two different pieces of plastic. Two different lives. The same number staring up at everyone. 001. That was when the silence truly arrived. It moved through the sandkin like weather. The red gates stopped blinking. The air conditioning hummed above the marble. Someone near the back lowered a phone they had been using to record. Victoria turned away from the screen and faced Ethan in front of everyone who had watched him empty his pockets. "Mr. Brooks," she said, and for the first time that morning, the title sounded like respect instead of paperwork. "Hailcore owes you the truth on record, and I owe you an apology for allowing this building to mistake procedure for justice." Ethan stood slowly. His hand found Lily's shoulder. His face carried no triumph, only the tired peace of a man who had waited years without asking the world to clap. "Just make sure the record protects the next person," he said. Victoria nodded once, then turned to legal counsel. "Freeze Adrian Cross's executive access. Preserve every log. Internal audit takes custody now. Marcus Doyle is relieved from active security authority pending investigation." Adrian's hand tightened around his phone, but he did not raise it. Marcus looked toward the camera dome he had tried to block earlier, then looked down. The power in the room had shifted without a fist, without a threat, without a single cruel word from the man they had humiliated. And as badge 001 lay under the lobby lights, finally remembered by the system that had once buried him, Ethan Brooks faced the strangest question of all. What does a good man do when the truth gives him back the power he never asked for? The crowd did not clap. It simply parted, quiet and ashamed, as internal audit rolled the sealed evidence cart away, and legal counsel escorted Adrian Cross toward the executive corridor with his access badge already disabled. Marcus Doyle surrendered his radio, his keys, and the polished authority he had worn like a second suit. The red gates turned blue one by one, and for the first time that morning the lobby felt less like a checkpoint and more like a place where people could breathe. Victoria ordered Ethan's record restored before noon. Original security architect, root author, badge 001. She also ordered a formal review of every employee profile Adrian had touched, because dignity returned to one man meant very little if the system stayed cruel to the next. Noah Reed stood near the reception desk, still pale, still clutching the tablet. Ethan looked at Victoria and said, "Protect him." Victoria nodded. Whistleblower status. Written today. Only then did Ethan exhale. Lily slipped her small hand into his and looked at the silver keycard on the evidence cloth. Hours earlier, it had made people see her father as a thief. Now it sat beside his old faded badge like a name finally spoken correctly. "Are you still a janitor?" she asked. Ethan smiled, tired but real. "I'm still your dad. That matters more." Victoria stepped closer, not with the rush of someone offering charity, but with the care of someone approaching a man she had misjudged. "Mr. Brooks, I would like you to return as a security advisor. Not because of what was taken from you, because of what you protected even when no one protected you." Ethan looked across the lobby at the daycare corridor, at Noah, at the employees who no longer met his eyes casually. "I'll help," he said, "but no more systems that crush the quiet people first." Weeks later, a small brass plaque appeared outside the daycare hallway. "Lily Protocol. Protect the smallest user first." Beneath it, a scholarship was created for children of custodians, cafeteria workers, guards, and night shift staff. Ethan never asked for a corner office. Some mornings he walked in wearing a pressed shirt. Some evenings he still picked up a fallen cup before anyone else noticed. Respect had not made him louder. It had only allowed the world to hear the quiet that was already there. And when Lily passed the lobby with him, holding the old badge 001 in both hands, people stepped aside in a silence no longer filled with suspicion, but with grace. Because dignity does not need to shout from the highest floor. Sometimes it waits on wet marble, holding a lost keycard until truth finally learns the way home.